Hello guys, it's Christian from Emotions in Wine. Today is here tasting with white wine from my region, Friuli, Giulia. The first time I speak about it. So Ribolla Gialla. You may know it or not, it's not that famous, it's a small acreage in general because it's really specific to Friuli Giulia in Slovenia. So northeast Italy. Slovenia is the border, but is the most relevant grape. Maybe not the most famous even there, because maybe many of you know more Friulano, former Tokai Friulano, but Ribolla Gialla is the most historical, said to be there since Roman days, written testimony 700-800 years already. After phylloxera it dropped in quantity for some reasons, and there is a sort of mini renaissance in the last 20 years for several reasons that we will see. So Ribolla Gialla, so Gialla means yellow, as you may imagine. Also the topic of the labeling often with yellow. We have two wines, Collio and Colli Orientali del Friuli are the two hilly bordering Slovenia main wine regions in Friuli, and in both Ribolla Gialla is relevant, but is made also somewhere else, not just there. But there is the most important. It's a straightforward grape, low alcohol, high acidity, citrusy, some flora, not good for aging, perfect aperitif seafood wine, easy to drink. So it's a pleasant wine. Of course, it's not giving you emotions, but it's very enjoyable, especially in summertime. For these reasons also happened probably that they pushed the boundaries in the last 20 years, in particular the orange wines, so the macerated Ribolla and Ribolla as it's called in Slovenia, which took even more extreme direction, because in Slovenia is really a big focus. In Italy still a small part of the wineries and mostly in one area. So that was giving a bit of trend, different wines of course, but to find some more complexity and aging potential in that case for sure, because then you extract a lot, even tannins from the skin. If you know me, I'm not a big fan, because you distort the grape, is not even a food-friendly wine in general. For Ribolla it's better because of the acidity, that helps, but still I'm not a big fan, especially longer macerations. Some are doing in the reasonable days, so that is still interesting, giving a bit more complexity of course to the wine. There is also a bit of oak versions. Majority are not outstanding because it's not easy to find the balance between oak and the wine to let it express without covering it up. But there are some very good expressions, And in normal and traditional way is good also for sparkling because of the acidity and low alcohol. So even some traditional method, but this is the classic version. So we have two of them, one from Collio area, one from Colli Orientali, even though both of them are not DOC, but IGT Venezia Giulia, which is a bit strange. We will talk a bit about. This is Primosic from Oslavia, which is the most famous village for the orange wines, near Gorizia, which is the main town in Collio, really on the border with the mountains behind. Is a 23 vintage, 12.5 alcohol, and this is Clivi, also 23 vintage, 12.5 alcohol. This is from Colli Orientali, the Friuli, so a bit more north, but still close to the Slovenian border. And he is really having the vineyards there, but he's still doing IGT. There is a long story about this. With the maceration, this and that, they went out of the rules of the regulations, so IGT was quite a classic. But usually for the regular ones, fresh, is strange to see. But I see more and more nowadays. I'm not living there for a long time, so I'm not that up to date. So apparently, even for this, many prefer to make IGT. I don't know why. For Primosic, I have a doubt, because the soil that they declare is different, is more calcareous with pebbles and clay, so seems more Isonzo area. if you know, is the bit inner is on the river Isonzo and more flat, and there is only a GT allowed the Ribolla, so it seems they may source the grapes from there. But before it, they were making a DOC, so I don't know now. While the other one is really in the Colli Orientali, so I don't know why he decided that way. So Ponca, a sort of Friulian flesh, without going too much into this, is a sort of layered stratum of sandstone and marl. So marl is a classic friable limestone and so calcareous clay kind of structure, even in Barolo, as we saw last week. This other sandstone is also typical, but the combination of the two make it flesh usually is more hard rock. This is very friable, so it's really specific to that region. Was underwater the ages, so gave this kind of different kind of flesh. So it's very friable. On top of the hill, of course, a bit more rocky. Lower parts more clay. There is a lot of calcareous component, and is very draining. So the water is drained down, so it forced the plant to dip the roots inside. So that's one of the reasons why the minerality of these wines is characteristic of both Collio and Colli Orientali. Of course, the rest of the region is more flat, even Isonzo, so they have different soil. So that is the characteristic. Given the character of the wine, they are famous worldwide as whites. Nowadays, there is the problem with the warmer climate of the alcohol rising too much, even if they are in good locations near the mountains, so a bit cooler, especially excursion, but the sea is still not far, and if it's exposed south and many hills are very low, so that don't help. So nowadays it's more favorable to have different exposures or higher hills. Ribolla is still characteristically low alcohol and more acidity, so that make it more suitable. So let's start with Primosic, Ribolla Gialla 23, 12.5 alcohol. So the color is already quite golden, because even for this entry for them in Friuli is quite typical. Many do a short maceration anyway. So hours, but I don't know exactly if it's 12 hours or something like that. The color is quite golden. So, as I said, historical winery there, they do Riserva oaked with a longer maceration, and then the orange wine. This one before was Collio DOC, now it's AGT. As I hinted, seems they source it from another area. In that case, it's not the best, because, as I said before, it must be on top of the hills to do the best, the Ribolla Gialla. Quite interesting, the nose, pleasant, floral, citrusy, green apple. Is the skin contact give a bit of different character, not just on the palate, also on the nose, inevitably. There is the touch of tannin from the skin, so it's quite dry. The acidity, the touch of tannic, and then the mineral, but not that pronounced, honestly. I was expecting more minerality. Not that long, medium length, quite balanced already. So good aperitif, of course, it's good food pairing. So even with the skin contact, it's still quite straightforward. Initial decent intensity on the nose, but then it doesn't change much, doesn't have complexity. So fresh version, easy drinking, pleasant, worth the price. Here we are talking about wines that cost 18-20 euros, nothing more. So almost everyday drinking, doing its job. I would have expected a bit more, also memories from the past, but it's still nice. Let's go for I Clivi, Ribolla, IGT, also this one, Venezia Giulia, 12.5 alcohol, 23 vintage also. So as I said, they are not for aging, these fresh versions. Usually we drink them the first year. When it's 2-3 years old, tend to be already very round. Even if the acidity starting is the highest in the region, but it's still not the complex, not the rich, not the structure, so it's not doing well. Of course, the best expressions, even unoaked, can do still well. So this one was macerated a while and then only still, while I Clivi, which, as I hinted before, I think is in Corno di Rosazzo, so really in Colli Orientali, but for some reason he put still IGT. He is organic certified, niche winery. This is 10 years old wine, so it's the youngest, but all the other wines have 60-70 years old wines. So he's very focused on that. If you saw in the restaurant in Trieste sometime before, I drank the Friulano from them. Friulano and Malvasia are their key. They do all the local varieties, so organic, indigenous yeasts, and no oak. And is on the fine list for 6 months. So even here, thanks to this on the fine list, permanence, the color is a bit tending to the gold, lighter than the other. Elegance, first of all. I like this winery quite a bit, so I'm happy I found it. I wanted to give it a try. I never tried before the Ribolla. I know both of them, even the owners, but it's elegant immediately. Really refined, some floral, some citrusy, green apple, so similar character, but much more refined and delicate. The other a bit more intense. This is really on finesse, I would say. And is even more characteristic on the palate. Freshness, minerality. Here the minerality is much more evident. The freshness too. Keep you salivating, so it's better than the other one, as much for the seafood that I will have tonight, so I will enjoy for sure. And even longer on the palate. Leaving a bit more citrus and some floral, but the minerality is really staying there. Quite impressive. This is on Ponca, really. So those layers of sandstone and mud, and you feel it because I know well the characteristic minerality and freshness that it gives, and this is that. Then on with a good hand, they know what they are doing. It's a great winery, as I said, and we see the result. 10 years old vines only, so not that good to give complexity and anything, but finesse, outstanding. So even for a regular summery wine, you can still have some nice surprises. Changing a bit, but still mostly on the citrusy and these things, and the minerality also on the nose. Yeah, stay there. So it's quite long, honestly, it's quite long. Really with citrusy and mineral, so in a way less balanced than the other, but with a better aging potential. This can age well for some time. It's still very much on freshness and minerality. So perfect to keep you salivating and to clean the food, but even with a discrete aging potential for a Ribolla Gialla standard. So I'm quite surprised positively. So better than expected. even for these simple wines. So guys, I hope you enjoyed. Like, subscribe, comment please, and salute.